Welcome to Capstone. So you are embarking on something that's going to be an awesome experience for you. It's going to encapsulate everything you've learned in high school, and it's going to bring all of that learning to fruition in one giant event. And so a lot of people get caught up in Capstone thinking of it as only being one thing, but Capstone is actually three different parts. So I want to make sure I go over all three parts. So everybody's very clear that there are three parts to Capstone. It seems foolish that I keep saying this, but some people still struggle throughout the marking period and semester to recognize that it's three parts. So, part one is a research paper. Everything you're going to do is going to be research based. You have to have a thesis, you have to have a problem. It's going to be research based. And out of that research, you're going to come up with the idea for two, a project. A project is going to be something beyond just like a trifold board or a poster. Your project is going to be something that impacts the entire community, whether it's our school community, neighborhood community, the world. You're going to create a project that kind of solves that problem that's based in research. And then the third part is a presentation where you're going to present your research, what you did for your project, and what you learned about yourself. So I'm going to go over each of these three parts so that you're very clear in making your decisions for what your ultimate capstone is going to be so that you know what's required of you. So step one, research. Everything needs to be research-based. You're going to use credible sources to research and write a minimum of a 4-page research paper. Most of you are going to exceed those 4 pages because you're just going to do so much research and you're going to be so passionate about your topic that you're actually 4 pages isn't going to be enough, but the minimum's 4. In your research, you're going to create a thesis. It's going to solve a problem and you're going to come up with a solution in a thesis format. You're going to use data. So data could be through survey, through interviews, through observations. And in that data, you're going to analyze it and use it in your research paper. And then you're going to create an annotated bibliography. Some of you probably don't know how to do that yet, but that's okay because you're going to learn how to do it during Capstone. And so your research will have all of these things. You're going to write a research paper that's at least 4 pages long, that has thesis, data analysis, and annotated bibliography. Then after that, you're going to do the project. This is what most people get really excited about, the project itself. So I want to go over some examples of what we've done in the past. And the idea is that these will spur you into thinking of other ideas you might do. So some of you might remember we had school news and we had 2 students who made a school news show that was biweekly. And they wanted to do it to build school spirit. So their problem and their research based was that kids who feel connected to school actually improve their attendance and improve their grades. And so they wanted to incorporate a way to make kids feel like they belonged at school by creating a school news show that interviewed students. They also did a volleyball tournament for the entire high school to make kids excited to come to school and feel like they belonged. We had another student who felt like people get shamed based on their body and they feel like there's impossible beauty standards. So they believe that everybody has a model body. So they upcycled all of these costumes that you see here. All of these outfits are individually designed to fit everybody's shape, body style, gender. And they made an Instagram page. They had a fashion show where they had a red carpet and they designed a beautiful performance to show that everybody has a model body. The senior stairwell started out as a capstone project. Again, with class spirit and seniors leaving their legacy behind, we've started this tradition here as basis of a capstone. We had somebody who did something on the importance of arts and they drafted a screenplay. And then they had everybody sit around and read the screenplay. They took a familiar story, The Monkey's Paw, and turned it into a movie script. Light the Night is usually a typical capstone project where we walk and raise money for people with cancer or for cancer research, but that itself isn't enough. So then the people who run this do something else. They create a handbook for those who need to love and support people who have cancer. Somebody else did a podcast for kids whose parents have cancer. So it's the Light the Night event plus some kind of additional something. A number of people have written books as their capstone. So far, we've had 2 children's books, a book of poetry, a collection of short stories, and a science fiction novel. And so those people maybe researched the genre. They wrote a research paper about the genre or about the publishing industry and how it needs to have more BIPOC representation. Or maybe they researched the historical time period for the historical story. So there needs to be a research component with your book if you create one, but that's also an option. Some people love animals. And so we had somebody bring in therapy dogs. And so they had to coordinate, advertise, get permission, get the therapy dogs to come. They came in on more than one occasion, so it wasn't just a one and done thing. We had people do volunteer hours at a veterinary clinic, and they did that to raise awareness and show that when dogs are loved, they're more likely to find homes because they're used to being around people. We had somebody do something on prison reform, and they had a panel discussion with people who had are officers in the correctional facility, and then they did a Zoom call with people who are inmates. Panel discussions are a pretty popular capstone where you invite guests or experts in their field to present about their topic, and people often use Trinity Hall for that. A lot of people aren't big performers and they don't want to do something big and flashy. So they create websites. Some people create them directly from scratch. Some people create them using Google Slides or Google Sites. And so it's up to you, kind of your comfort level with that, but it needs to have interactive pages. It needs to have videos, surveys, some way that interacts. We had people who did mental health days. A number of people did projects that were connected to each other, but they didn't work together. So one year we had people who ran a mental health day during advisory in the library, and they each had different stations. So everybody had their own capstone project at different stations. So we had one that was like art therapy. We had one that was a circle. We had one that was bracelet making. And so they had different ones about stress relief all at the same time. So you could do something like that where your project might complement somebody else's, and you don't need to be best friends. You don't even need to really know each other, but you could do it at the same time because it will reach a bigger audience. Had a number of drives here. We've had a period poverty drive, food drives, clothing drives. So you do research on what the need is, you advertise here, and then you bring it somewhere. Maybe it goes to our own community. Maybe we start a food pantry here. Whatever it is, it's going to be something beyond just yourself, just your little community. We had one student who cleared an entire nature trail behind an elementary school. So they worked with the community. They had 70 volunteers to set up, to rake things out, to cut things down, to clear out the path so that they can incorporate nature into the elementary school learning experience. We had one person who really cared about how AI is taking over art. So they created lunchtime karaoke as their project. You know, they did research about how AI is really destroying art and music and theater because if it's computer generated, artists themselves don't get to do their own thing. And so they coordinated it and they started this, funny thing to do the purity of karaoke singing during during lunchtime. We had somebody who brought in guest dancers and they did a workshop. We've had different guest artists come in and they run workshops with people around a topic that the senior cares about. A number of people have done documentaries, and documentaries need to have smooth transitions, clear audio, research-based, interesting graphics. Some people do a showing of that documentary maybe in Trinity Hall, and they have people come and have Q&A afterwards. All of this, remember, is part of the project part of the capstone. Then the last part is the presentation. So if you remember, you have the research paper, you have the project, and then you have the presentation. These are three different things. The presentation is when you take everything you've done and bring it together. So usually on a half day, all the seniors stay after, they get dressed up, and they present in front of the entire staff, but not all the staff at once. So you'll be in a room with 2 or 3 other seniors, maybe 5 or 6 underclassmen, and 3 teachers, and your audience. And then, of course, if you want to bring in family, and your audience will listen to the research that you did, some statistics, some data that shows what you learned about, and then what you did for your project, and you'll explain it. A lot of people do Google Slides, some people do posters, some people just do speeches, or they show off their website, but it's a way for you to demonstrate all that you've learned. And overall, you want to dress to impress. This is an important opportunity for you to show off everything you've done. And so you want to look the part, you want to dress professionally. So these are the 3 parts of capstone: the research paper, which is at least 4 pages, the project, and then the presentation where you wrap it all up. The thing about capstone is it's going to take hours and hours of work. It's going to take hours of time, but it's going to be something that you are passionate and you care about. So if you pick a topic that your parent wanted you to pick, or you think is going to look good on a college resume, if you are not passionate about it, these hours are going to be torture. But if you pick something that really excites you, you love art, you love auto mechanics, you love anime, whatever it is, pick something that you are passionate about, and the project will be able to rise to that passion. It'll be amazing. And those hours of work will actually feel really rewarding that you've worked so hard. So this gives you a foundation of the 3 parts of capstone that you've got to do in order to graduate.